All right, welcome back to the Black Techies podcast, where Black culture meets the world of technology. I'm your host, David, and as you can see, hopefully, if this video is recording, we're doing video again. So we haven't done video since 2 years ago when Black Panther came out. So we're back. We're going to try to do this every podcast to kind of have a video and an audio component for our podcast. So, you can kind of not just hear us interact, but you can see us interact. You can see, when people make those side eyes, whenever someone says somehow that iPhone is better than Android or vice versa, whatever, you can see it and react to it, right? So before we start, some housekeeping. As always, if you want anything to do with the Black Techies, go to our website, theblacktechies.com. Follow us on Twitter at the Black Techies, and of course, facebook.com/the Black Techies. You'll definitely find some interesting content, especially recently involving 5G and the recent coronavirus. We might get into that later, but without further ado, well, actually, before I introduce our guest, we have Herb here, at least on my left. What's going on, man?
COVID-19 blues, bruh. COVID-19 blues. A little bit stir crazy, man. Just as a caveat before we really get started, that 5G article says a lot. We got how many hits do we get on that article?
So wait, before you, so as a bit of background, so I posted an article on our website called it's called what was it? How 5G causes COVID-19 and why it's for population control, right? And so it was meant as a clickbait article on purpose, so that when you click it and you read the article, you're like, oh, it doesn't cause 5G doesn't cause COVID-19, but it
was like Call of Duty. It was like a Call of Duty free for all in that.
Oh my god! So we posted that, and I think right now it's around over 6,000 views for that one article.
One article.
I'm like, wow, that is the most that we've ever had in the history of our little organization or whatever. But it's sad and hilarious at the same time, because you have people who are just gung ho about some 5G, and somehow the radiation makes our cells weaker, and that somehow causes COVID-19. And I'm like, that's not how cellular works.
Man, I'm burning brain cells just thinking about that comment section right now.
It's on our Facebook page. So if you get a chance, go to facebook.com/the Black Techies podcast. That's what it is. I actually changed it. Facebook.com/the Black Techies podcast. Scroll down and you'll see our article, and you'll see like 100 comments. I don't know what it is, but I think it's like 50 comments or something like that. And like grab a coffee or something. Like you might want something to
Oh my god.
All right. Getting into the actual meat. We have here on the show Miss Techme0ut herself. We're trying to do a series called the Black Techie Spotlight, where every month I interview a prominent Black content creator. And last month we had Kevin the Tech Ninja, Kevin Nether, and this month we have Techme0ut. And ma'am, thank you for coming on our show. Thank you for your time. And just before
Yes.
Just I guess to start off, just kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and all that. Where you went to school, where you're from, all that kind of stuff.
Cool. Well, on YouTube, I'm known as Techme0ut. Basically, what I do is cover a lot of tech content, and I like to kind of phrase it as covering it like a conversation versus a presentation, because I like a laid back approach to talking about technology. I try to break it down so it's easy or easier to understand. But I like to talk about tech from unboxings to the best apps to even the tech in cars. I try to really diversify, I guess, the type of tech things that I cover: smart home products, best Amazon deals, things like that. So that's basically what I do on YouTube. I went to Elizabeth City State University. That's the college that I went to.
Yes, sir. HBCU.
Yes, you know. But I went there. I majored in psychology, and then I went back to school and got my master's my master's in instructional technology with the specialization in the corporate sector. But it's crazy because I use the degrees, but I don't use the degrees because this is what I do full time now. So psychology is the study of the mind. So studying the mind, I guess, to figure out, how to best talk to people, I guess, when it comes to this type of stuff, which mixes in with the instructional technology because you learn the learning style of your student. So it's indirectly involved, but so yeah, there's that. But yeah, that's, I guess, the
long and short of it.
The long and short of it.
The long and short of it. Yeah.
No, that's good. We always like to see people, fellow HBCU products out here. So you'll definitely get love from us when it comes to all of us. I think went to an HBCU, so yeah, you always get love from as far as that. I went to 2 of them, so I marched at one. Both Herb and I were in the marching band at our respective schools.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was in a marching band in high school. No. I didn't do college.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, and that's kind of how, like I said, we kind of had prior, experience dealing with each other before, this whole tech thing is, there was a small, very, very substantial, online community called the Fifth Quarter that we really, that we really crossed paths at. Quick shout out to Christy Walker out there. Yeah, thank you. The trailblazer. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I can't. I'm a big fan of your work, and
thank you.
It's anytime I get a chance to do see unboxings or I'm perusing YouTube and I run across your work, it's like, wow, man, her stuff is just mad polished and it's just it's just on point. And it's not it's not a whole bunch of it's not just a whole bunch of jargon just tossed together. Mm-hmm. It's very relatable and it's very easy for people to listen to. And I'll take this time to just say, hey man, you just, it's on point. It's really good stuff.
Thank you so much. That means a lot because that's what I strive for. And it's one thing to aim to deliver it, but then to hear someone state and how you're delivering that, I greatly appreciate that because that's what I strive to do there.
Well, I will say that me and Herb aren't the only ones. I think someone is nominated for a Shorty Award.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you all don't know, the Shorty Awards are like what are they? They're like awards for like content creation and video and maybe podcast. I forgot.
Yeah.
But so yes, you are nominated. I think is it best upcoming or something like that. I remember seeing it on your website. And I was like, oh, that's right. She is nominated for it, sure.
I think it was last year. I was nominated for best upcoming YouTuber. Or no. What was it? I forgot the title. But it was like best upcoming YouTuber of the year or something like that. But I was in the category with like some heavy hitters. Like I think Peter McKinnon was in there.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Will Smith. I'm like,
what?
I think my name was like either
that's cheating. I swear.
And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in the category with these guys.
Yeah.
So I felt very honored. I had no idea that I guess anyone. I don't know how the Shorty Awards work in terms of how you're nominated, but I didn't even know that I was in a position to be nominated or that anybody viewed me as a potential nominee. So to get that notification, I believe Jacqueline from Nothing But Tech was the one that told me because I had no idea. And
really?
I
didn't even get send you any mail, email, something?
No.
A DM?
I found out no. After she told me, I was like, let me go check my email. I didn't find anything in my email, but she sent me the link because at first when she told me, I was like, no way, because I didn't get an email about this. And when I followed the link and I read the page and I saw that it was the actual website, I was like, no, this checks out. Like, this is legit right now. So I was really shocked, and I just, even to this day, I still feel honored. I didn't get to the final round, but just to be nominated was a privilege in itself. So
yeah, that's pretty good.
That's
so I guess to keep it somewhat structured, me and Herb, I guess, can take turns asking respectful questions if he comes up. So I'll start off, which is it's a question that I'm sure you get all the time, but I gotta ask it. The name Tech Me Out. How did you
Yeah.
come up with that?
Oh, that's so crazy, man. I really don't remember the like what the thought process was. I know I was talking to one of my friends and we were talking about names, but like I don't know. I guess I just did it. I know I've always say like it's a spin on Check Me Out, but I don't really remember like how it became Check Me Out. But I'm sorry. Because I know it's kind of a bland answer, but I don't remember the backstory. Just like talking about it with our friends, but I don't remember the details of the conversation. So, but yeah, check me out was just a play on the words. Check me out.
No, that's. I mean, I for me, it's pretty. Well, not flashy, but it's creative. So I mean, who else would have thought about who? I've never seen anyone use that phrase like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's
Yes.
unique to you, and only So whenever someone thinks about Check Me Out, they're always going to think about you because you're the one who thought of it. And as a
Oh,
side
thanks.
note, for all those who are watching or listening, like right now, while you're listening, open up a new tab in Chrome or Firefox, whatever, and type in the Black Techies. Just type in the Black Techies. Guess
Yes.
who's going to be the number 1, 2, 3, 4, and fifth hit? Yep. So
Yes. Yes, sir.
I'm just
I'm
saying.
yeah, man.
We
That's
kind of have now we just need to trademark that name.
yes.
Okay.
Like yesterday.
Right. We
Yeah,
need to go ahead and
yesterday.
trademark it. I have a
Yeah,
plan for doing that, by the way. That's coming. That's
Yeah,
coming this
yeah,
year, hopefully. But
definitely.
that's coming.
yeah.
I'm just trying to get our ducks in a row as far as starting an LLC and all that kind of stuff. So and then right now it's kind
Yeah.
of hard because like no one's open because like I don't know if the
Yeah.
state
Yeah.
is like processing those kind of things right now. But so I don't know.
That is true. That's a
Well,
good question.
well, me
But I
and
would
Dave,
think so.
well, me and Dave work in the federal sector on some level. So it's like, we're having to deal with the closures,
Mm,
regardless of whether we're teleworking or what agency we work with. And so it's like, just trying to get a specific answer to a specific question is a challenge. So
Mm.
yeah, we probably won't have an answer to that, once until this whole thing blows over.
hmm
But one question I wanted that immediately came to mind when I found out that we were going to be interviewing the famous Techme0ut
Y'all,
was just
you're
was
too
just
kind.
yeah was just how would you describe your process in getting started in content creation? Because a lot of us,
Mm.
myself and Dave included, have kind of flown kind of by the seat of our pants
Yeah.
trying to get started.
Basically.
So,
Yeah.
and trying to figure out what platforms to go to start with, or whether we should just stay with a podcast, or just a whole number of things that that challenges that content creators normally face.
Right,
What
right.
was your process? How did you come to be as diversified in terms of how you reach audiences?
Um, for me, I started on YouTube, and I started when I jailbroke my phone actually, and I was doing like a lot of things around that and just apps. So I was definitely more software driven in the beginning. But then I started to feel kind of like I guess I was in a box. Like I wanted to talk about more than that because I was passionate about more than that. So
hmm
I then started pushing tech into it, and then if you're not familiar with like how jailbreaking is, like you can't really do much until they figure out a way to modify the software version that you're on. So because it was like a waiting process sometimes for me to make videos around that, I started to feel really limited. Like I definitely want to cover other things, so I'm not just waiting on the next update or the next, thing for me to jailbreak for me to cover. So I started doing more tech products and I started liking that more. And so I eventually just merged fully into that. But I started doing those things, but the passion was always there. I always loved technology. I've always loved videography and photography. But it wasn't until I started doing YouTube that videography took, the top level of things that I was pursuing at that time because photography was it and graphic design. But in doing YouTube, definitely got to learn your video production. You got to learn how to film. You got to learn how to edit, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually enjoyed it a lot. And I started from there. So it allowed me to take a lot of my passions that I wasn't sure how to make into a career, eventually evolve into one, because it was originally a hobby. And I had a job and everything. And I was like, I don't think I'll quit. You know, I think I like doing YouTube on the side. But then as I started making more content and realizing the difference between liking what you do and loving what you do, I was like, it's time to make those steps towards being, you know, a full-time content creator, because I was really passionate and still really passionate about it. So that's kind of how it started, just having a love for technology and a love for things that are involved to capture that, and finding a safe space to do it all. So it just kind of came about from there. Yeah.
That kind of leads me to my question. And what do you think is the hardest part about being a YouTuber or just a content creator in general? I mean, a lot of I know some of the things that we've come in. Some of the problems we faced was, number one, finding time, because all of us have families. Yes. I have a wife and a daughter, so it's like Herb has a daughter. In fact, all of our panel members have children, or at least most of them have children. Right. So it's like finding time, and then what to talk about, making sure that the content is not just there, but that is quality. And that's the thing. And Herb actually mentioned that when he talked about how fond he was of your channel, is the quality. You know, we watch people like MKBHD and Your Average Consumer, like all those people, they have really good video production, and that matters. And that kind of that keeps people hooked. You know, it's not some janky, you know, some janky video production. Now, there is a certain charm to that, I will admit. Like Flossie Carter, he's not like Flossie isn't janky, but because his videos are so direct, and it's like it's just him giving you what he thinks at that moment. That's what's appealing. That's his thing, right? So you don't have to have, you know, super overproduced videos, but at the same time, people appreciate thought and time that's spent in video production. So I guess what are the I guess the pitfalls you've had as far as being a YouTuber? And
I would definitely, like you said, it consistency, which revolves around time. I know when I first started YouTube, I was working on my master's. I was working full time, so it was just like, for me, it was a lot, and YouTube did get pushed to the back burner. Like, I would go weeks, sometimes months, without uploading a video. But I would definitely say consistency, because consistency does drive results. So when I did start becoming more consistent, I did notice, you know, a different view count, sub count, even drive from myself when I was being more consistent than I had been. So consistency, I always say you got to be relentless, simply because it is a very saturated platform right now. So you have a lot of people doing the same thing, and sometimes your videos perform the way you want, sometimes they don't. And even today, for me, sometimes it can be discouraging when you put so much time and effort into a video and it's not received the way that you want it to be received, or the way you thought it would be received. So it can be discouraging, but you got to use that as ammo to like keep pushing, to be relentless, because it makes you want to quit. It makes you want to be like, man, I'm gonna just stop. I'm gonna just take some time away. But you want to be relentless. You want to keep pushing. But I'm the type, I like quality. I am a perfectionist. And even after putting videos out, sometimes I'm like, dang, I could have did this better. So, but I like quality, but I really feel like the content has to be there, because I always say, like, you have some of these phones that are like unreleased, and you get that random person that gets the phone, is this like crappy photo or crappy video, but people watch it because they care about the message. They want to see that phone, you know. They don't care how it looks, as long as they get a little peek at it, they're like, all right, I'm gonna look. So I feel like it's kind of a similar space with YouTube. You want your message to be so powerful that people can overlook some of the quality that you may feel that is not there. And then at the same time, sometimes if you are like a perfectionist, the quality might be there. You're just being your own worst critic, you know? So I always tell like my friends and stuff that are trying to get into YouTube, focus on what do you want to be known for? When somebody says, oh yeah, I like, you know, such and such, or like if they say, well, I like Techme0ut. Why do you like Techme0ut? What do you want to be known for? What do you want to, you know, be that resource for online? Why do they say they like you? What do you want to attach to your name? And quality is going to be there, but you definitely want to have a message, a reason for them to hit subscribe, a reason for them to come back. What is it about your channel that makes you so unique outside of the video production? What do you bring as a person on camera that makes me want to keep watching you? And that's basically what I kind of try to focus on and take into account when I make videos.
No, that's good. Yeah. That's good. That's very sound advice, especially for even for us. I mean, we've been doing this for 3 years, but we could definitely stand for consistency.
Yeah, and I mean, just to kind of piggyback off of what Dave just put out. I mean, consistency for us. Whew. Yeah. Only thing I can tell you, I mean, the janky promoter reference that Dave made earlier for our first couple of podcasts, man. It's just like, just putting the podcast together with bubblegum. And it's just but the big thing about it is, we're really passionate about it, about, the space that we occupy, and the fact that, there's a tight-knit community of Black creators that are out there. And the fact that we got a chance to actually start, building something and seeing how people were receptive to it, that was really, eye-opening, especially for me, because, I mean, just seeing, both of us work in technology for a living, and, just seeing how different that feeling was as opposed to working for a boss or working for an agency or another entity, that I think that's one of the real joys that we both have gotten. All of our members have gotten from doing the podcast. Yeah. There's one question that we kind of touched on in your response earlier, in terms of feedback. Now, we've had our run-ins with trolls.
Oh, yeah.
We've had our run-ins with trolls. This last article we just put out, they just came out the woodwork for that one. But how bad has it gotten? And some of your experiences with, some of the more negative aspects of it, and how did you deal?
Yeah, I will say, that's a really good one, because I had more of that, I would say, in the beginning. Why, I don't know, but I would go online and I would see the N word, I'd see the B word. I would see things where even if they weren't cursing at me, they'd say like disrespectful things like, "Oh, why aren't you in the kitchen making a sandwich?" Or stereotype like, "Why aren't you doing a makeup channel?" So for me, like, sometimes it is those moments where you might have seen people say it, where you see the good comments, you're like, okay, cool. And then you see the bad comment, and that's when you go like hammering at the keyboard, because you feel like you got to defend yourself. But I've gotten to the point where I just try to ignore. I'm a quick delete, block person,
You ain't got time for that mess.
I can't catch all of them, but if I see it, it's quicker and easier for me to delete and block someone than it is for them to make another account to leave a negative comment. And I'm not gonna say I do it every time, but if I happen to see one and I don't like it, that's typically my response. So you just kind of take it in stride. Just know what they're saying isn't true. Sticks and stones may break my bones. Type of attitude. Take it back to elementary school. Right. But yeah, I just try to overlook it. But like anybody, sometimes words will get to you, especially if you having a sensitive moment or whatever like that. Or they say something that you like, dang, I did kind of think that, but just keep pushing. Don't let it get you. That's how you know you're doing something right. You got somebody hating,
Right. Exactly. It's that kind of leads into my next question. So, like I said before, the reason why we made the Black Techies was to kind of create a platform for Black people to just kind of come together, talk about the latest tech, gaming. Like, we got just a lot of gamers in our little group. Just geeky stuff. Like I said, we talked about Black Panther. We talked about we had a whole episode just for the last season of Game of Thrones. So like, these are all stuff that you don't normally see, especially in the tech world. Maybe gaming, it may be in the anime space or whatever, but tech specifically, like who else do you know gets around and talks about iPhones and Android phones. Like, who does that? So
it's a very, very small space. What you're
Yeah.
saying, that it's a good space to have though, because I know, like, I love technology, and I have a cousin that loves technology, and we would literally sit for hours and talk about, the latest devices, software, and all of that. But I couldn't have that conversation with everybody, but because he understood and I understood, how we felt about tech, it was good to have somebody to talk to about that. So it's nice that you have this.
right. So
Yeah.
so then my question would be, have you faced any kind of, I won't say opposition, but like negative feedback from the Black community itself? Because a lot of time, so I don't know, like, I don't know if this was you in like elementary school or middle school or high school, where you have the cool kids, quote unquote, but then you have the
Right.
nerds, that we're all into the
Mm-hmm.
technology. Although nowadays nerd culture is celebrated now, huh?
Yeah.
But it's our time to shine. But
Yeah.
like, when you started doing this, did you ever run into people who are like, why, like, why are you talking about tech, like, is that something
That's
that I don't
that's a
know.
good question. I honestly didn't. Honestly, every person that well, not, I would say, I want to say everyone, because I can't recall anyone, you know, being negative. Like you're saying, like that's a black person still
Mm-hmm.
like saying, "Hey, why are you doing tech?"
Right.
Instead of, no, I haven't had. If anything, they're very fascinated, they're very impressed. A lot of support, a lot of support. So I can't say that I have had. That's a good thing. I never really thought about that, but that's a really good thing to be able to say. I haven't had any negative backlash there. Yeah.
That's good. So
Yeah.
that actually kind of motivates me anyway. So earlier today we were having not a debate per se, but I was asking like, well, I was like, are you sure you all don't want to make this into a gaming podcast? And so
Yeah.
it's like, it seems,
Yeah.
at least in the Black community,
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of enthusiasm for gaming. You talk about
Oh
Madden or
yeah.
2K, people come out the woodworks, right? But you talk
Mm-hmm.
about, oh,
Technology.
I just wrote an article a few hours ago. Google's allegedly trying to make their own chip for the Pixel, just like Apple
Interesting.
does for
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
A series. But
Mhm.
like, who talks about that? Like, so it's
Yeah.
like, it's encouraging to know that you haven't faced any like
Yeah.
internal opposition, and
Yeah.
that you've actually gotten kudos and support. So that makes me
Yeah.
feel that, all right, as long as we keep doing this and getting the word out,
Mm-hmm.
we can continue building that support. I mean, we have a limited amount of followers, but
Oh
we
yeah.
just passed
Yeah.
five we just
Oh,
passed
oh, oh, I
500
thought you said
views.
unlimited. So
Oh no.
sorry.
Oh no.
No,
Yeah.
I
We're
wish it was
You have
unlimited, but
yeah.
you
Wish.
can get unlimited.
yeah, we have
Yeah.
we have a limited amount of viewers, right, or
Yeah.
listeners right now. But
Yeah.
we did just pass 500 likes on our Facebook page, so
Yeah.
Round of
slow
Yeah.
applause.
but
Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not counting that lone cat from Saudi Arabia that keeps on popping up on our Google
You
Analytics.
always, the bots. There's something else. There's something
Yeah.
else. It's
Yeah.
interesting that you bring that up though, because it's like, when I think about the comment section, I can't tell the ethnicity of people unless they basically say it. But I know some people have made comments and they're like, I've never seen a black woman doing tech. I instantly subscribed. Or it's so good to see, someone black doing tech, instantly subscribe. I'll see comments like that. And some, yeah, like I said, I don't know the race of all of them, but yeah, that's typically what I've seen. Oh, and sorry to take it back a little bit
no,
to
you
your
good.
earlier question. I forgot something else that I do to help with negative comments is I block certain words. Like when I set up a filter, like when I did start seeing that I was getting the B word and the N word, I went ahead and blocked it. So like certain terms can't even be typed. Of course, people will probably figure a way around it, but once
Right.
again, it's easier for me to add that into the filter than it is for them to try to figure out another way to write it. Like that's a lot of effort to,
Yeah.
on the other person's end to try to be that negative. But I think it's easier for you to combat against it than it is for them to continue to try to feed it. It
Mm,
definitely has to be a mission.
Yeah.
right,
Now,
right.
you know.
now, now there's one thing that and I think Dave kind of touched on it a little bit just a minute ago. when we were, he was describing our passionate debate off camera about, whether or not we were going to develop a gaming channel or not. I think one of the things that I've always had questions about in terms of, content creators in our space is, how, what level of fellowship there is in terms of, supporting, your own supporting people that are in your space, as creators, and, partnerships or just general things in terms of just getting the message out that we're here. And we've got quality stuff to show you. Because I've noticed that in other aspects, particularly in YouTube, where we see, content creators of color. Like, for example, the first thing that comes to mind when I think of content creators of color that aren't in our space are folks like Jahan Jones, All Def Digital, and all those guys that do a whole bunch of comedy and a whole bunch of really, really diverse entertainment content that's out there. And, have you had any interactions with those guys in terms of them seeing your product and, those guys reaching out to you, or vice versa, or just in general when you see, people, that fit our niche, supporting each other?
You mean like other Black people that might be doing something, but it's not tech kind of deal, but they know of my channel? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Yes and no. Both tech and those outside of tech. So
okay. Yeah, I feel like those that I have came across have been supportive. I've actually one YouTuber in particular I knew I loved her content, and I on a whim I was like, oh, let me go follow her on Instagram. And I had been watching her channel for a while, and I just realized, oh my God, I just never followed her on Instagram. So I went on Instagram to follow her, and when I was about to tap follow, I saw follow back. I was like, oh, she knows who I am. It was one of those moments, like, it felt good because I loved her content, and then to see that she was already like following me up there, and then I ended up messaging her about that, and she was like, yeah, I love your content. And it was just like, it was very, it felt very good because it's like, oh, I love your content too. So I have ran across other people of color that are in the tech field or out of the tech field, and it's been support. So yeah, I'd say it is, or it's also those that are just like, you tell them what you're doing, it's like, okay, and it's just that's it, because they're just not naturally into technology like that. So, but I wouldn't say I have received any kind of negative type of feedback or response.
That's good. That's good to hear.
So on the I guess to kind of go back to the more of the YouTube part of it. So a lot of people, they'll start off on YouTube, they'll have success, and then they'll start getting things from companies. So my question is, how do you manage your business relationships with companies that give you things? And because that's one thing I've always been interested in. I follow I'm a big supporter of Michael Fisher, Mr. Mobile. And at the end of his videos, he always says that this company did not have any kind of editorial control over this, and they're seeing this at the same time you see it. So he says that in every single video, which is good. It gives his ethical stance, right? So how do you manage those business relationships, and how do you keep from being a shill, quote unquote? I guess I don't know. Or is there a time and place for being a quote unquote ad versus reviews, objective reviews?
Okay, can you elaborate on that last part again?
So like
when you said in terms of being an ad versus a review.
So some people will take ad money to like unbox a product or something like that, but they won't review it. They'll be paid by the company to simply unbox it. But to do a review, they won't take any money to do a review. They'll take the device, but not any money. Money is in exchange for a review. So like, I guess I didn't really have to say all that. I guess my main question is, how do you manage your business relationships with the companies who might want to feature their products on your channel?
I try to keep an open line of communication, and I try to be transparent with them in what I do and how I cover my content. Like, I like to sometimes brands will give you things that they feel are important to know about their device. But at the same time, when it comes to your audience, it's up to you as an influencer to know, or content creator, whatever you want to call it. It's up to you to know what is best for your audience in terms of the message. How do I relay this? Are they going to care about what they just mentioned is important to them as a brand? And finding that middle ground of, this is what you want, this is how my audience is, and this is how I review content, and finding that happy median. So I like to communicate and keep that communication line open, and being a bit transparent in terms of like what I seek to do with the product review. Or I guess I never really thought about ad versus review. But yeah, I think as long as you're being honest with your audience in terms of what you think about the product, that's what matters. Because you have some of those that watch videos, and the moment they see it sponsored, they're just influenced to think that, I guess what you're saying is a lie about the product, or that you're hyping it up, or it just devalues everything you have to say sometimes. So for some people, when they say it's sponsored, but I think when you built up that trust with your audience, they know that you're not going to talk about anything that you don't truly believe in and truly like yourself. You're not going to steer them wrong, because in being in this space as well, you are a trusted voice. And once you lose that trust, you have, in essence, kind of like messed up your brand. And it might be hard to revive. Some have done that and they've been able to revive or sustain their brand, and some have not. So I think it's all based upon your relationship with your audience at the end of the day, when it comes to talking to the brand and figuring out what's the best way to get the message across to your audience. But as long as you're being honest up front, I feel like it's easier for your audience to process that it's a sponsored video. But you're still going to have some that's just like, nah, I don't like it because it's sponsored. Or you're a sellout,
Right.
But,
and to those listening or watching, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with a sponsored post. I would love to someone to sponsor us. Like I personally use Audible. So like Amazon, if you're listening, like I will sponsor. I will. I will.
Right.
And that's another thing that I think is important. A lot of people accept sponsorships for products that they already use, like Squarespace and Audible and stuff like that. They already use it, so it's easy to say, yeah, you use this product because I use it personally. I used it before they even asked me to sponsor it, right? So, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I guess for someone who wants to get to a point where we were able to manage good relationships with other companies and business entities, I was just curious as to your thoughts behind that and how to manage those relationships. Because if you're new and coming up and you get that sponsorship money, you're like, okay, what do I do with this? Am I supposed to, like, how do I handle this from an ethical point of view? I guess.
So keep that communication line open. Talk to the brand like, oh, this is what you want to pay. What do you seek? What is your vision for this content coverage? They tell you basically what's the creative concept, or you could give them the creative concept before they have the opportunity to. And you just find a middle ground. It's kind of like, and it's hard to say, but it's like having a client of any kind, whether you are a fitness trainer or you're a chef or whatever. It's just finding that middle ground between the person that's paying you and what the service that you're about to render, and just keeping that communication line open. And I think either you're going to find that you can get along and come to a happy medium, or you're going to find, hey, our views are just too different. This isn't going to work, So just, open and honest, for sure.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So you got any? Go ahead.
Yeah, I got one. All right. This is more of a hypothetical. Well, it's still a question, but it's first thing come to mind type of question. So let's say you're sitting down at your desk and you crack open your laptop and you're perusing YouTube. What's the first click that you'll take in terms of content that you're interested in watching?
You mean like, what am I searching for first?
Oh,
that's a really good question. All right, when I get on YouTube, it typically has me on the home tab by default. And generally up there, something piques my interest. And I've gotten in the habit lately of especially adding things to watch later. But it all depends on my mood. Like sometimes I'm in a learning mood, or I want to be inspired and I want to like get that motivation. So I'll watch something that teaches me something, whether that be like how to improve your Final Cut Pro workflow, which is what I use to edit, or, a lens or a camera or something like that. But I will say a lot of the channels that I watch and I'm subscribed to are tech based. I don't have a lot of vlog channels. I have a couple, but most of my content is definitely tech. Tech and video. I don't watch a lot. I don't watch as much entertainment on YouTube as some probably.
Yeah, actually, now that I think of it, I don't think I do either.
The vlogs, they're too drawn out for me. Like, I don't know. Like, a lot of channels that I do happen to like get in my home feed or run across by accident, there'll be like prank channels, and they're funny, but like, I just feel they're so drawn out. Oh my God. I just feel like, get to the prank already. I just don't have the patience. But I was telling one of my friends, I was like, I think based upon your niche on YouTube, your audience is almost conditioned to watch it a certain way. I think those that watch vlogs and pranks are used to longer videos. They're used to that type of style. And when you're watching tech videos, you're used to a certain type of presentation. You know what I mean? It's more formal sometimes. It's more informational. You might get a little humor, you might get a little entertainment, but you're more so going to learn, and you're kind of expecting the format to be a certain way. But with vlogs, it's just a little bit more raw, candid. It's like you're conditioned to receive it. Does that make sense a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
okay, I'm making sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've wondered that because I know my playlist on YouTube is all over the place, and whether it's,
good.
I mean, it's just like everything from SharePoint coding and design to Mobile Suit Gundam, that type stuff. It's all over the place.
That's good. That helps though. That's good that it is like that, because then you diversify what you are consuming, which I think reflects in what you create. You take a little piece from everything, but I'm subscribed to more than tech channels, but definitely a lot of tech.
So let me be a little bit more fun.
Okay.
So as you know, like most of us are gamers. So like for people who don't follow you, who aren't familiar with you, are you a gamer? Are you a PC gamer, console gamer, mobile gamer? You don't care about games at all? I don't know.
That's a really good question. I used to be really heavy in my eyes into gaming, and it was more so a game. Because I'm the type that, I don't know, I like a game and I'll play that game a lot, and I won't per se play a lot of other games. And the game that I was really passionate about, and it's so old now especially, was Black Ops. I had the Turtle Beach headset.
People still play Black Ops.
Go ham.
Yes, man. Yes, sir.
Oh my God.
Black Ops, an old go-to.
Black Ops. And then my job setup was different at that time. I had time to play, and then you start entering into the work field, go from part-time to full-time, and you got school, and I stopped playing. But now, actually, what I'm mostly into is the Nintendo Switch, and you probably already know what game.
Animal Crossing. See?
Yes. I've never played it though. I'm not one of those that's like, I don't have a basic understanding of the game because I've never played the game before, but it's interesting. It's one of those that's like, it's a tedious game because you're building everything. But I found myself like, I'm gonna go play my Switch, and I'm sitting there playing. I was playing a little earlier today, so that's my game of choice right now. Animal Crossing for sure.
Is it because is it no? Look, as many people have bought this game, I don't really think I have the right to judge anymore. It's like Nintendo's gonna look at me like, you see this? You see this balance sheet right here?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The Switch is sold out all over again.
Yeah, I'm so glad I got mine like way back when it first came out.
Because you cannot find those. The lights, none of them. It's very fascinating. I know the climate of things has a large influence on that, but still, like, I was shocked. I was like,
I don't know. I wrote a post about this on my personal
Yeah.
Facebook page. I was like, how is it like, are we that privileged that we can panic buy a $300 console like just on the
Some
spot like
people,
that?
I guess.
Yeah, for real, man.
But I guess
I guess when you're about to be home, you're like, hey, this is an investment.
Yeah.
right.
I mean,
No,
it's
to be fair, like
my
I have a
sanity.
daughter, so I definitely get. If
Yeah.
you have kids, I get it. If you have
Yeah, yeah.
children, no judgment here. I get
Yeah,
none,
yeah.
it.
absolutely
So,
none.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can't even lean on that.
yeah.
yeah. I
I
mean,
have no kids, so it's just like it was just for me.
I mean,
But it is one of those things it's good to buy for kids for sure.
Mm.
yeah, yeah. I think just to kind of add to what Dave was just talking about in terms of gaming. I mean, just when I think of that for me, I mean, I flash back to school. I flash back to you know, hanging with the roommate and breaking them off something, Killer Instinct, or getting my money after band practice, in
Mm-hmm.
the student center where playing Tekken or Killer Instinct or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're absolutely right. Life hits, and then your focus in terms of gaming and time dedicated to it changes.
Oh
Now,
yeah.
now, given that we've been, quarantined, as a nation, we've had opportunities to revisit those childhood days.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For
And
sure.
yeah, because look, I mean, sitting in front of the console, I'm, Call of Duty, Black Ops, Advanced Warfare, FIFA. I was really a big FIFA, college basketball, college football guy too. You
Mm-hmm.
know, shout out to Ed O'Bannon, for like putting us through the ringer, but thank you for taking us to court so that way at least we have some hope to getting the games back again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I can really relate to that because
That's good.
being caught up indoors now, it's just like, okay, I get up, sign in for work, yeah, do the work, but break time here to
Walk 5 minutes to your desk.
exactly.
Not even 5 minutes, like
Man, roll out of bed to my desk,
right.
and yeah, and when you're taking that break, I'm like, okay, what can I get popping on the console real quick
Mm-hmm.
before
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
before
yeah.
I got to sign back in for work. So yeah, I could really relate, and this entire episode in terms of people having to disrupt their normal daily routines in terms of movement
Mm-hmm.
and travel has kind of put that into a different perspective.
For
And
sure.
now, my question to you, in regards to this, and this is, just in complete relation to what's going on with COVID-19 and everything,
Mm-hmm.
how has that changed how you go about your daily, routines in terms of creating content or, adhering to your framework?
Um, for me, I've always kind of shot most of my content at home. I wanted to get out more, but I seem to run into the most issues when I step outside to try to do like the A roll, so to speak. So I might go out and do B roll, which is, filming the product and stuff. But I mostly film my videos at home. But in reference to COVID and just the effect it's had on that, being that I filmed at home, it didn't change that much. But I would say, if anything, maybe sometimes my mood to want to create. So I try to stay on top of what's going on with it, but not have it like on all the time because it's draining energy wise and mentally and emotionally. And it sometimes will affect your drive to create. So I say, if anything, sometimes that would be what it influences for me, the motivation to want to sit down and film a video. Um, just because everything just feels so different, whether you go out or not, you just know in the back of your head what's going on. And so that would be the main thing I would say.
So I would to kind of add to that. See, are you being a parent right now? No, but
No
It's just
comment.
funny how it
no.
happened.
No comment.
But hey, it's some of these Zoom conferences I've seen, that's not the worst I've seen. There's a video going around. I don't know why they recorded this and put this on the internet, but apparently one guy didn't realize his camera was on. He was like stark naked in the frame, like naked, like everything was being shown. His coworkers were so embarrassed. But I'm like, dude. God. So just as a quick note, if you're going to be on a video conference, please make sure that you know the state of your camera, whether it's on or off.
And the framing, what is in frame. That's vital too, because you might have some background activity going on.
Yeah. I mean,
that's crazy.
Yeah, sorry about that parental moment.
No, you're good. But so just actually, this is probably my last question. So, every year, you go to all these events, Apple's event and Google stuff and Samsung's Unpacked and all that kind of stuff. But obviously, because of the coronavirus, all of that stuff has been canceled, including E3 and all of this stuff. So my question is, how else do you see the tech world affected by this pandemic, like for the rest of the year? Like, do you think that, Apple's going to hold their event in September-ish or whenever, or like I don't know. How do you think this is going to affect the tech world going forward?
That's a good question, and it kind of loops me back to the previous one too a little bit, because that was another thing in terms of motivation to create. It's like, do I really talk about the tech you should buy during a time like this? You know what I mean? Like, do I really do that? It just was, I was conflicted, but I think at the same time, people like seeing that stuff still. Like, more people are consuming social media now, and so I think although it felt weird, I think they still wanted to see your thoughts and opinions on these things, but it felt kind of weird talking about it or being upbeat about it and just excited. And meanwhile, this is going on. But in relation to how it'll play for the rest of the year, I know it seems like a lot of things are going online in terms of keynotes that we normally would physically go to. If anything, I think marketing strategies would be different from the keynotes on to just, I guess, how they would normally promote products. It's like they have to think differently and new innovative ways to attract the audience. Social media is just at an all-time high because that's how everybody's consuming so many things, from entertainment to information. So I think capitalizing off of that and influencers in essence. And I don't know, it's going to be interesting. I don't know. I just feel like they're going to probably just continue to do virtual keynotes and press conferences that way. But I think they're still going to roll out things. If anything, it might have shaped how things are now in reference to some of the keynotes that were probably planned physically. But I think they're going to have a better game plan intact for the ones later this year. Because who knows when we're going back. And when I say going back, I mean, like, stepping outside and traveling the way we used to. There's speculation it's going to last until August. There's speculation it's going to last until next year. So
I really hope it doesn't do that. Like, we're trying to put my daughter in a different school, and I really don't want her to be doing
it's affecting
distance learning.
Yeah. Yes.
So I think a lot of things are just going to be what do y'all think? What do you think tech is going to look like from here?
I think. Well, actually, Hurry, go ahead if you want to.
I mean, honestly, everything is so dependent on what our current dude in the White House is going to do. And not to go off on a tangent there, but I mean, the fact that there's still a bit of a disjointed response in terms of how certain states are doing specific things to to affect an effective response and try to kind of counteract what's going on the fly. It's hard. If you're on the East Coast and you're in one of the major hubs like New York or DC, fortunately for us in the DC metro area, that's where me and Dave are at. The governors are pretty much on the same page. The states, DC, Maryland and Virginia, have always kind of worked as one entity when it comes to things relating to public safety, public health, those things. The real challenge is going to be, again, those those state governments that are, have the same mindset as the guy that's in the Oval Office, and things being opened up when they shouldn't be opened up yet. And there's still a lot of things being done in terms of testing, in terms of just getting people to do the social distancing things that they're supposed to be doing. And right now, we're just seeing spotty results. Some places are, you'll see cases plateau, or the curve being flattened as they've been putting out in the media in terms of that specific term. But it's hard to say how the nation's going to deal with this collectively, because there's not a collective response. There's just something, there's people doing it the right way. There are states and governments that are doing the right way. And then there are those that are like, okay, what the heck are you guys doing? You're trying to kill us all. It's just, so
we got to unify on things.
Yeah. I mean, and that is, that's something, if our colleague Dominique was here, he'd probably be on a rant right now.
Yeah.
But I think from a technology perspective, and I can honestly say this when it comes to public schools, even all the way up to secondary and higher education, that there's going to be more of a reliance on effective technology than ever before. And the disparities in terms of access to that technology, we're already seeing it. Everybody doesn't have access to fast internet. Everybody doesn't have access to hardware that they can, take home and, flip open the laptop or go to a desktop, and access their courses online. And this is at every grade level. And this is something that states now are scrambling, states and county and local municipal governments are scrambling to solve. So it's going to be very interesting to see how, these same governments deal with the same thing. And it's also going to be interesting to see how regular people deal with it. Because, folks like us, for example, my side hustle is doing websites and refurbishing things. Dave likes putting the PCs together, and what we might end up doing down the road is, seeing, somebody that needs something and just putting something together and saying, hey, here's a laptop, or hey, here's a desktop. There's your any families that don't have one or don't have access to internet. Municipalities may band together and say, hey, look, we need to solve this problem for the folks that are in our population that don't have access to these things. And I think those questions are going to really be answered one way or the other, in the next couple of months as this reaches its peak, and as the American public just says, "Hey, this is what we're dealing with. What are you guys going to do about it?" So,
it's funny that you mentioned the response. So so on the tech side, we've seen a bunch of streaming channels. They're like, hey, you can have. I think Sling just did a special where from 5 p.m. to midnight you can just use Sling for free, and you've seen all of these tech companies with the
Stadia with the free Stadia.
Stadia is now free for 2 months. So it's interesting seeing how
stuff's coming out like that.
So here's the thing that I won't get too much on a rant about our ISPs, but I find it interesting that that now all of a sudden the internet is just is great, but now we don't have to worry about data caps anymore because now we have to use the internet for video conferencing and distance learning and all that kind of stuff. But before, we need data caps so we can keep too many people from getting, I don't know, whatever their BS excuse that they come up with. But now I think we're seeing that data caps or at least on broadband, I would even argue on the mobile space, but just data caps in general aren't needed. Why do I have a terabyte of data and that's it? I pay you this amount of money for this amount of speed. This is what I should get all of the time. I shouldn't get to a certain point and now I'm only getting 12 megs. No, that's not what I pay for, right?
So
But so I think we're going to see a bunch of net neutrality stuff coming out. Maybe in the future. Well, I don't know. Maybe not under this administration. But I won't comment more on that. I'm a federal employee, so I will not. But in the meantime, all I will say is, like, when November comes, just vote for somebody. Vote. Like, just don't complain about anything if you ain't gonna vote.
True.
But I'll keep my political leanings. Actually, that's an interesting thing about our podcast. So we're not all on the same page when it comes to politics. I actually lean more conservative. Herb is more liberal. Herb and Dominique, especially Dominique.
Dominique is militant.
So like it gives us a really good like collection of thoughts. We're not like all single-minded. We kind of try to have a diversity of thought and all that. So we're but I always say it's always good to follow people you don't agree with, so so you understand their point of view. And I always say you don't necessarily have to agree with someone. You're not obligated to agree with someone, but you are obligated to understand why they believe that way. Like, I'm a Christian, right? But why, if I talk to an atheist, why are you an atheist? It's good to understand that. I might not agree with you, but at least I understand why you don't believe in God. So
keep an open mind.
Right. Yeah. So, but all right, enough about that. But I know, right? See that. It's funny. Herb just talked to me about this. So he was like, "We need to stop going on these tangents." What do we do? Go on the tangent. But maybe I can just edit this out. I don't know. But all right. I think that's about all I had as far as questions. We definitely appreciate you being here with us. So before we leave, just let our listeners and viewers now, let us know how can they get in contact with you, how can they view your content, all that stuff, all the socials, all of that.
Oh, for sure. So you can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at Techme0ut, and that's spelled TECHME0UT. So just like the word "Tech Me Out," but with a 0 instead of an O.
All right. Is there
the same on all?
I've noticed on all of your social media platforms and your website, you don't mention what your actual name is. Is it possible you can get that? or are you keeping it? Are you
keeping
it?
You're gonna do this day?
Hey man, I had to try. But man. No, if you want to stay mysterious, that's perfectly fine with me. I just thought I thought I'd shoot my shot, as it were.
No worries. Yeah.
Please let that woman stay covert, please. Please. But I would think. Well, first, thank you, Techme0ut, for joining us, man. It was I was excited once I found out Dave landed this. I was just like, wow, yeah, this is dope, and it lived up to everything I was expecting. Keep doing your thing, keep grinding. One thing that I wanted to get out there really quick, in light of some news that we got today, some really good news in terms of HBCUs and esports. Johnson C. Smith and Hampton have both established official esports presences on their campuses. One has an official esports curriculum and program at Johnson C. Smith, and the other, has a business curriculum that they're developing at Hampton University. The one thing that we kind of introduced, a couple of months back, is the Black Techies HBCU Esports Initiative. And that's a mission for us and for anybody else out there that wants to see, competitive esports on HBCU campuses there. So we're recording and creating a registry of any and every program, that club, team, whatever, that starts a presence on their own campus. So when for those of us that are watching or listening to the podcast, if you are interested in getting a presence started on your campus, please do so. Get together with your homies. If it's just college basketball, if it's NBA 2K, it doesn't matter. Approach your student government associations, create clubs, approach your administrations, your leadership, because this is an avenue of revenue, not just for students, but for attracting students to HBCUs. And it's I mean, if you got,
especially
schools
now.
like
you ain't doing that anyway. Especially
yeah. I mean, if you got spots like Seton Hall, University of Maryland, Cal State Northridge, having esports teams and raking in millions and millions of dollars, there's no reason why HBCUs can't do the same thing.
Can you imagine if during this whole quarantine that we had esports tournaments between HBCUs? Like right now, like you just from your computer, you playing League of Legends or Call of Duty or something. Like I think that would have been really, really. I mean, they're kind of doing that now, but not with the colleges, but they're doing it at the pro level. But yeah. So like we said at the beginning, make sure you follow us on Twitter at The Black Techies. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/The Black Techies Podcast. Don't forget the podcast part. And of course, our website, theblacktechies.com. And of course, follow Techme0ut on all of her socials. And normally we would end our podcast with a hearty Hail Wakanda. But I think that you should give the final your traditional ending to your videos as far as the ending to this podcast.
Oh yes. All right.
I think that would be appropriate.
Hey, right.
Yes, sir.
Well, I'd like to say thank y'all for taking the time out to let us check you out.
There we go.
Yeah.
Hey, it's official.
Yeah.